Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. It's been a few months since the Kenobi series ended, and I was recently rewatching some of the episodes of the series. As much as I enjoyed many moments in Kenobi, which featured one of my favorite actors and favorite Jedi, Ewan Kenobi, the military nerd inside of me just couldn't let some of the sequences go, specifically the attack on Jabiim. Now, I'm fully aware that a lot of the show is designed for children. You have those scenes with Leia running away from the goons and everything like that. Is it really that bad of an idea to show children tactically realistic battle scenes? I mean, with the way things are going here on Earth, it's very possible that more and more children will become soldiers, as is common in Star Wars. Joking. In all seriousness, what I did notice was a direct contrast between how high quality some of the duels and sequences in the show are, which only makes the more poorly executed attack on Jabiim stand out even more, which is why today I want to bring back an old series and take a look at everything wrong with the attack on Jabiim. The attack on Jabiim starts indirectly because of the capture of young Princess Leia, who the third sister Reva has captured and is holding onto in Fortress Inquisitorius. She aims to use Leia as bait to attract Obi-Wan Kenobi to her. As insurance, Reva has also placed the restraining bolt and tracking device on the little girl's droid, Lola, which is a good move because Obi-Wan and his buddy, Imperial Turncoat Taladirth, managed to extract the little girl and her droid from the heavily guarded underwater base. They get a little help from a pair of airspeeders being flown by the Hidden Path, an underground movement that specializes in helping Force users escape the Empire into the Outer Rim. They do a really good job here of showing just how much more powerful vehicle-mounted lasers are compared to handheld lasers. Airspeeders like the T-47 used by the Path rank pretty low on the vehicular pecking order in Star Wars, but against a bunch of foot soldiers, the effects of their weapons are devastating. Leia would be taken to the Hidden Path's base on Jabiim, which is sort of like a sanitation depot used for collecting and sorting out scrap. Like most industrial buildings in this part of the galaxy, it featured heavy blast doors and other robust structures that could be quite useful for a siege. While Vader and the Inquisitors are on their way to the planet, the droid Lola springs into action and locks the main hangar door of the base. This makes it impossible for the Path to evacuate with their freighter. Shortly after that, Vader's Star Destroyer, the Devastator, emerges over the planet and deploys two dropships, which has two platoons of stormtroopers led by purged troopers. They also bring along with them a heavy laser cannon. This makes them pretty much evenly matched with the Path in terms of personnel, which makes no sense. The Imperial-class Star Destroyer usually has an entire legion of stormtroopers on board. That's around 5,000 to 10,000 stormtroopers. They also should have an entire wing of TIE fighters along with AT-ATs and other ground vehicles. In a lethal battle, you always bring your full strength. You never go down to your opponent's level just because they're weak. You don't, deploy less troops. It makes no sense. Also, there were clearly no other battles that the Star Destroyer needed to be involved in. Anyway, the Stormtroopers line up in almost parade formation in front of the Hidden Path's door. They're standing out in the open, blocking each other's firing lanes, the usual stuff you would never do before breaching a compound. Meanwhile, on the other side of the blast door, Obi-Wan and the Path quickly begin to fortify the sanitation base. They've sealed the main blast door and any other side entrances. The idea here is to buy time so that they can fix the hangar door and escape the planet on their freighter. This also effectively traps the Hidden Path in their own base, which isn't exactly the best idea here, because clearly the Empire are only blocking one approach, the main door. They haven't sent other teams on dropships to locate and find the side entrances, so the Path could technically just walk out and leave. They could even come around from behind the stormtroopers and ambush them. But the mentality here most likely is to get everyone on the freighter and escape, so I guess this strategy of blocking everything has some merit to it. Now, once the Empire is all set up outside of the compound, another shuttle arrives, this time with Reva. She takes command of the operation and orders the heavy gun to begin firing on the door. Meanwhile, inside the base, the Path send Leia into the vent system to figure out what's going on with the main hangar door. The rest of the Path are preparing for the eventual Imperial breach at the main blast doors. We see that these fighters are also standing out in the open without any cover. I mean, you do have one guy with a metal shield. He seems to be the only one with half a brain cell. You think instead of waiting out in the open, they could spend this time preparing even more defenses, or like a barricade which they can take cover from behind. Obi-Wan Kenobi decides to pull out one of his old tricks and tries to parlay with Reva in order to buy their side some even more time. He used to abuse this tactic during the Clone Wars. While the old Jedi plays mind games with Reva and reveals that she was a youngling during Order 66, the Inquisitor sticks her lightsaber right through the blast door and destroys the locking mechanism. It seems like she could have just done this from the very beginning instead of using a, laser to melt its way through a metal door. The ensuing firefight is a genuine low point in Star Wars battles. It's embarrassing how stupid it looks. It reminds me of that scene in The Departed in the elevator where everyone just freaks out and starts firing at each other in point-blank range. It makes no sense. Both sides knew that the other side was waiting on the other side of the door, but neither party was in any position to protect themselves. I mean, it doesn't take a military expert to understand that one does not stand in the open and just fire at someone just a few feet away from them. It's called self-preservation, and that day on Jabiim, no one seemed to have any. The Path really had everything on their side. They knew the layout of the facility. They had time to prepare defenses. The whole entire area was full of fatal tunnels and very defensible passages. They could have made life hell for the stormtroopers if they had prepared properly. Twilight Company, a novel which I enjoyed tremendously, speaks of rebel troops exacting huge casualties from the Empire in a similar close-quarter combat situation. I mean, obviously the Path is made up of mainly civilians, but Obi-Wan Kenobi was a freaking war hero and a general in the Clone Wars. He should know what to do in this kind of situation. At least Obi-Wan tries his best to stand his ground and provide cover for those behind him with his lightsaber. At one point, the fighting devolves into hand-to-hand combat because Reva tells her troops to go into the breach. I don't care how indoctrinated you are, no one would charge your person holding a blaster firing directly at them. It's just inhuman. Now, typically when an attacking force is assaulting a heavily fortified area, they need a 3-to-1 personnel advantage. They should also be using heavy weapons that they have at their disposal. Speaking of which, why aren't they using the heavy laser cannon to just whittle away the rebel defenders? It doesn't make any sense that no one's using them. Also, where are the detonators? They are perfect for this type of situation. They can be really deadly in an enclosed environment. Also, what is this guy doing here, holding a pipe standing out in the open? Imagine how dumb the actor must have felt when directed to do this, which is nothing. Like, what's my motivation? Am I supposed to stand here with this pipe and block laser bolts like Obi-Wan can? Obi-Wan finally tells his exposed fighters to withdraw, and he does a good job covering their retreat with his lightsaber. Again, one single detonator at this point in time, or at any time, could have changed the tide of this entire battle. Everyone is bunched together, no one is in cover. It's a very easy target to hit. The Pathfighters retreat to the next defensive point, which are a series of barricades erected in a tunnel. These barricades are sharp, but they also have holes in them, so they don't really work well as cover. Luckily, Ned B, the loader droid, is pretty solid cover himself, and now he takes place at the rear guard along with Taladirth. The two quickly get overrun, however. As stated in our previous video, Obi-Wan Kenobi should have still been there, holding his lightsaber, blocking all the blaster bolts coming in. This is actually the preferred tactical situation for any Force user. Remember Vader at the end of Rogue One or Luke Skywalker at the end of The Mandalorian? The Fatal Funnel is probably one of the worst nightmares for any normal individual with a blaster, but for a Force user using a lightsaber, it's actually the ideal situation for them. Taladirth ends up taking a shot to the gut. She falls to the ground severely wounded. For some reason, the normally ruthless stormtroopers just ignore her as they walk by, despite the fact that moments before she had executed a downed stormtrooper with a blaster bolt to the head. When Tala realizes that she won't be able to make it out of the situation, she finally pulls out, surprise, a detonator. I guess better late than never. She sets off the device and forces the Imperial forces to disengage. The Path are now stuck in their hangar. There's really no way out for them except up. It's at this point that Darth Vader tells Reva to cease her operations and wait for him to arrive to take over. He wants Obi-Wan alive so that he can face him one-on-one. Obi-Wan decides once again to take matters into his own hands. He casually walks right out the blast door that both sides just moments ago had been fighting viciously for. Notice how neither side have guards posted at this entrance? The Empire would have been completely unprepared had the Hidden Path launched a counter-offensive through the door. Obi-Wan knows by this point that Reva wants to kill Vader because he had killed all of her friends during Order 66. By giving himself up to Reva, he gets a chance to convince her to let him help her take out the Dark Lord. Reva sends Obi-Wan Kenobi back into the facility with just 2 stormtrooper guards for some reason, instead of, I don't know, keeping him next to her where she has all of her stormtroopers watching them. And so Obi-Wan quickly escapes the 2 guards by taking them out. Maybe it's all a part of Reva's plan to assassinate Vader. Who knows? At this point, Leia finally finds Lola and removes her restraining bolt. This leads to the hangar doors opening. For some reason, the Star Destroyer, which is doing absolutely nothing at this point, doesn't just send down 2 turbo laser bolts immediately and destroys the Path's only way off the planet. I mean, what's the point of having a giant Star Destroyer on station if it can't do what it was designed for? The Path quickly board the freighter and begin their escape. Darth Vader arrives just in time to witness the freighter taking off. He's able to stop the freighter from flying away with the Force, but that was just a decoy ship, which is actually a really smart move by the Path here. You know what I liked about this episode? The flashback scenes of Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi dueling, which relates directly to the battle that unfolds on Jabiim. Unlike that present battle, though, this duel is carried out with skill and precision. They clearly have hired a choreographer to design the moves, and the dialogue and the acting is solid as well. Kenobi had a $90 million budget, making it by far one of the most expensive Star Wars series per episode. But it was actually a lot cheaper than a film like Rogue One, which would have cost at least twice as much but was much shorter. Still, this is Star Wars and expectations are extremely high. You can't have these brilliant moments like the duels and then switch over to this terribly executed battle that just kind of destroys the overall flow of the story. I'm not saying that Disney needed to enroll all of the stormtroopers and Pathfighter actors into a military boot camp like they did for Rogue One, but at a minimum they could have spent a few $1,000s to hire an advisor who could at least help them make their battles look a little bit more believable. Instead, what we get are battle sequences that remind me of the worst TV shows we used to get on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the 90s. When Disney took over Star Wars, the one positive thing that everyone believed was going to happen was the fact that they would standardize the content and the quality of the content. But clearly a show like Kenobi has its excellent moments, its bad moments, and then downright ugly moments like the Battle of Jabiim. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.